Hello and welcome to another special snow day edition of the Silver and Black Coffee Hour. My name is Tom Petrini. I'm here with my friends Aaron Blackerby and Zach Montana. Aaron and Zach, say what up to the people real quick.
Yo, hello everyone.
And we've got a super duper special guest on this show, a bit of a snow day expert, Jared Weiss, covering the Spurs for The Athletic and the New York Times. Jared, thank you so much for joining the show. Excited to have you here. Welcome to your first Texas Freeze, buddy.
It's been such an eye-opening experience having all these people freaking out about the freeze for the last like 48 hours, and they're asking me like, do you think you're going to survive? Like, what does your family have a plan for what to do after you pass from being looking at ice out the window? And I've been like, what is such a big deal? And then someone explained to me that apparently you guys don't have salt here. And I don't know, HEB still has some on the shelf, so I guess there's still some to grab. But like, all the things that we do up in New England, where I'm from, to prepare and deal with the ice is stuff that obviously we take for granted. It's a lot of just pouring a bunch of salt on the roads and then people driving their pickup trucks with plows on the front to get the stuff out of the way. And it sounds like that's just not going to happen. So I'm very curious to find out if this is like going to be a Mad Max situation.
I think every highway in the state would be basically gravel at this point. If you know, but we're just not built for it, man. But I'm personally am built for snow days, and I had the best snow day of my life in Boston, Massachusetts one time. It was post a Patriots Super Bowl, and we had a keg left over. Perfect snow day. Perfect snow day Monday, Super Bowl Monday. Like you can't script it any better than that. But yeah, welcome, man. It is so good to have you here on the show. What I guess some show business, like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your enemies. Uh, AB, what do you got, man?
Well, drop any questions for future episodes in the comments, and I hope everybody stays warm. And this lovely warm conversation is helpful for you to avoid any of your family if they're already, getting on your nerves or anything. Or y'all can listen to this together, and create another Spurs fan in your life. With that being said, though, I want to just kind of jump into it with Jared here. You've been covering the Spurs. You come from the Northeast and previously covering the Celtics. And so just in that, what have you seen, Jared, is just like the differences in the cultures of Celtics fandom to Spurs fandom, and or even similarities?
There's more similarities than there are differences for sure. I mean, they're both teams where the team is pretty deeply embedded in the culture of the city. San Antonio is pretty unique from the rest of the country in that it's only got one major, top four sports team, top four league sports team. And so it's like it is the only, thing in town. And there's not a lot of places that have that. Like I guess OKC has that as well. And, Boston doesn't have that. So the Celtics aren't the ubiquitous team in town. And, the Patriots are bigger just because the NFL is so massive. But the Celtics still have this like deep connection to the culture and the history of the city. And they're one of the kind of tent poles that you identify the city by. And frankly, I think the fact that the arena is downtown in Boston makes it, I think, a little bit more deeply connected. Like the Patriots, who their stadium is an hour outside of the city. On game days, it's like 10 hours because the traffic is so bad. So, and I would say like the Red Sox maybe are the most identified with like the core of the city of Boston, but the Celtics are also this team that is like one of the featured hallmarks of the culture of the city. And so that makes just like, Celtics gears all over the place. You're seeing Celtics gear probably more often than you're seeing Old Navy in the city of Boston. And it's just like it's part of it. Like it's just you don't say that about a lot of other NBA cities where like the team is like the thing that kind of is the civic epicenter of the city. You don't have that in a lot of cities, and that's where Boston and San Antonio are common. As far as differences, I mean, one thing I've noticed is just the locker room is really quiet in Boston most of the time, and the room in San Antonio it goes from loud to Keldon Johnson has walked back in the room with his boombox blaring Adele. Like
I was
I
gonna
was
say they
talking to
don't have
Dylan
Keldon
Harper.
over there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was talking to Dylan Harper after the last game, and then Keldon walked in, just like walked right up to us, put his boombox down, and we just kind of gave up on the conversation because I couldn't even hear myself talking anymore. So, I don't know how much of that is a Keldon thing versus the Spurs have generally had that kind of environment, but yeah, that environment would probably exist within the team to a degree if you weren't there. But he's just like such a cultural powerhouse and just like unmissable figure that he makes the energy around the team fun at all times.
Yeah.
Sort of on the fandom bit. I loved your Jackals story, man, and as somebody who really likes to write like 5,000 word things, man, I love that stuff. And so you got to really talk to some of these people who have been hand selected by Victor as like, cultural emissaries, right? Build this project that I am working on. How cool was that project for you? And was there anything that got left on the cutting room floor from that? Of like, man, I wish I
Oh,
could have
sure.
included this detail,
I'll have to
but
think of
it was already long.
I'll have to think about what's on the cutting room floor. I mean, when I first had that draft, like kind of like I got to my point where I'd pretty much written down everything that I wanted to write down. I think I was at like 7,000 words, which if people don't know how long that is, I can tell you, you've probably never read an article that was 7,000 words before. That's like absurdly long. We try to cap out at like maybe 3,500 to 4,000. A long story is going to be 2,500 maybe. So I had a lot of cutting to do. And I think we did a good job working with the editors over at The Athletic to try to kind of keep almost all the little morsels and nuggets we wanted in there and kind of just thread them through. And it just required a lot of trimming the fat and just, trying to swiftly work through scenes and all that kind of stuff to keep it into a word count that people could actually handle reading. And, I used to write 3,000, 4,000 words all the time because I would do a film breakdown and I would do all these examples. And I remember when the Heat played the Lakers in the bubble, I was sitting at home. I had nothing to do for a few months but watch film. And I think the game story I wrote after the last game was like 3,000 words long. And I'm like, in hindsight, I'm like, why did they even let me do this? Like, it's ridiculous that I even wrote that much. So, less is more a lot of the time. And in telling the story of the Jackals, it's hard to do less is more because there's just so many elements to the story that are so fascinating. And the approach I ended up taking was I wanted to tell Victor's story and then show how his story kind of aligns in many ways with the guys that men and women that he selected as the representatives of the Jackals, and then kind of bring together some of the similarities in their journeys and how they've developed a symbiotic relationship to a degree. Because what was really special about this was seeing that not only was Victor passionate about the Jackals program and like the concept and making it a thing, he was really deeply invested in the people themselves. And one of the things that stood out was he always led with the question of, are you enjoying this? Are you having fun? Like his first concern was not, are they making an impact? Are they organized? It was just like, are they happy? And as much as I think that might be like, he knows if you want people to have buy-in, they have to be having fun. He just seems to genuinely care. And he took like really serious ownership over this project. And so he's been deeply invested in like the happiness and enjoyment of the people that are doing it because he wants them to be, he wants them to enjoy it. Otherwise it's like, what's the point of building this thing that other people are taking enjoyment of if the people doing it themselves aren't enjoying it? So it was really interesting to get to sit down with him and see his values really come out. And, we've heard him talk about his values. We've heard him talk shit. Like we've heard him talk about all these different things, but it's one thing to say like, this is what I want to do. But like, this was a good example of him building something, putting it into action and seeing the results that come out of it. And it kind of really runs parallel to what's happening this season with the Spurs, where this is the first time that what Wembanyama is trying to put into practice is actually yielding results on the floor, right? But we're still pretty early in the process to know, is this going to be effective in the playoffs? Are they going to win a championship? The things that do matter at the end of the day once you get past the novelty of this isn't a crap team anymore. And so the Jackals, as early as they are in their development, they're already starting to like take shape, make an impact, evolve as time has gone on. And like a few months, like this thing's only been around for a few months now. And so it's interesting seeing how the evolution of the Jackals is running parallel to the evolution of the Spurs.
That's awesome. It was a fantastic story, and we're on the subject of fandoms, and I think a lot of Jackals would consider themselves basketball sickos. I think we all consider ourselves basketball sickos in this room right here. What is a core memory, I guess, for you that you were like, oh, this is my sport. I want to be involved with something to do with this sport for the rest of my life?
The memory that I have, the first thing that comes to mind, I don't know if this is even the right answer. It's a memory that I'm not sure even is real. And I just have this memory, and I haven't been able to find like anyone that remembers this happening. I was at a game when I was a kid, and they had handed out glow sticks to everybody. This was like late 90s, I want to say. And I'm pretty sure Rick Pitino was the coach of the Celtics at that point. And I seem to remember them. There was a game where they made a big comeback or something like that. And when they made the comeback, before the game was over, technically, everyone started throwing the glow sticks on the court. And Patino had to come on the mic and tell everyone, stop doing it. They're going to call a technical foul. And I remember this so clearly, but I looked a little bit a while ago for like someone that wrote about it, and like nobody knew what I was talking about. So I don't know if it really happened. I feel like I remember it really clearly happening. And so, a moment like that was such a cinematic moment. Like it plays like this like fascinating movie in my head. And those are like
you need
the
to
articles.
use your Celtics sources to like see if this has happened, see if you can confirm some of the details.
I have.
Because
I asked like some of the people that would have been around back then. They're like, I don't really remember that. So
Look,
I don't know. I guess I got to dig in a little bit further.
There is something to like the more you remember a memory, the more cinematic it becomes. And there's kind of this weird way our brains work that it's like not technically the memory. Regardless, you had such an emotional connection in that time, though, Jared, that it was like, hey, I got to do this the rest of my life. So who knows if it happened? You're here now. Like,
Sometimes the lie is what gets us, to the finish line, right? So I don't know. I now that I've thought about it, I have to I'm going to be back in Boston soon. I'll have to ask around and see if I can figure that out because I'm so curious. But, it's like that was the age where a lot of our memories, it's like, who knows how accurate they were, like I thought everything seemed way bigger when you're only 8 or 9 years old because you're short, right? So,
That's fair.
Maybe things aren't as remarkable as you remember them being. But I just remember that moment, and now looking back on it, I can see how that helped build my desire to write in like a very cinematic way. And I like to open stories with these like really like intense cinematic scenes that I'm writing it almost like a screenplay kind of thing. And, it's because there's just those moments that as they're happening around you, you're looking around and you're like, if there was like a soundtrack playing right now, this would feel like an Oscar-winning movie. Mm-hmm. And we don't get them often in life, but when you're working in sports and you're around sports, you get them a lot because you're seeing kind of like the peak of the human experience. There's not a lot of other things you get to do during your day where the best people in the world are doing it in front of your eyes and 20,000 people are watching them with like this intense passion. Like sports is something that just like doesn't really exist in many other ways in our lives, and that's what makes it special.
Great way to put it. That's a fantastic way to put it, actually.
Completely agree. Jared, we talked a little bit on the phone about this yesterday when we were setting this up, but there's been this kind of culture once again, like within the team of what the Spurs are, and now there is truly the tallest man in Texas that plays on this team, Victor Wembyama, and he's more outspoken. He talks his shit. How are you kind of seeing the conversation of this new culture that the Spurs are molding around him, molding with him, going, especially like coming in, this year where the team has really been successful? I feel like the conversation's probably gotten even, I don't want to say louder, but it's happening more between the two.
I can't wait for everyone to start hating on the Spurs culture because we just saw that happen with the Thunder where, remember, what was it? Draymond was the one that was like talking trash about the fact that they do the interviews together. And I remember I'm like, that's like the nicest, sweetest thing ever. It's so beautiful to see. And like, if it even is a little bit contrived and performative, which like, I don't think it really is. And people that are hating will always say any attempt at doing something together or attempting to do things is contrived. It's like, yeah, because you're attempting to do something. You're trying to put some sort of effort and thought into it. And sorry if trying isn't cool, but like people that try are people that do things, right? And so I really always loved that about the Thunder, and the Thunder got vilified to a degree because they won. And then once you're great, then, then you suck. Like, we hate you. Like, that's just how it always works, because you can't do any better than they already did. Although they tried for a little while there, they were somehow better. And so once you can't do any better than you've already done, then people are disappointed in you because they're waiting for you to do something new, and going 25-1 is, I guess, as good as they can get at that point. And so, the Spurs at some point in this arc that they're on, and who knows how high it's going to go, probably higher than this, probably a lot higher than this. People are going to get tired of it. And I mean, we've already seen some of that. For as many people that really love Wemby, a lot of people are starting to hate Wemby, and they're starting to get offended by a lot of the stuff that he does, because they think he doesn't have, he doesn't deserve to be as confident as he is because he hasn't earned it on the court yet, or they just think it's too brash and they don't like that level of confidence. And like, I think it's cool. I think it's awesome. I think most stuff is too political and too boring, and Victor isn't afraid to do that. And that's what makes him interesting. And when Victor says something that I'm like, you haven't really won enough for me to think that you have the authority to say it, but like, it doesn't matter. He gets to say it, and he has to prove that he's worthy of saying it. And, if he doesn't prove it, then he's going to have to come out next year and do better and prove it. And like, listen, we're all watching Victor. We're all seeing, like, as great as Victor is, he stumbles he literally stumbles all the time. He makes mistakes all the time. He's probably as good as you would expect out of somebody in year 3 as far as his command of the game. And then he's just also the most insane athlete we've ever seen. And so he's in this weird limbo where he's like not as good as he needs to be for the level of player that he already is becoming, and then is like already mind-blowingly ahead of the game for a player at his stage of his career. And so to bring it back to the culture thing, about like the kind of like emotional culture, but just like in the culture of like how the team actually functions, like they're kind of floating in and out of this limbo every single night, where they're organized around a player who is not yet ready to consistently handle that responsibility. And they're also at the same time like trying different things in order for him to develop and grow, so that as he gets better and Steph gets better and Dylan gets better and all these, even like Champagny gets better, like he's still young. As those guys get better, they're going to be able to play in many different ways at a very high level, which they're already pretty close to doing. And that's going to make them a truly, truly great team that can rival the Thunder and whoever else is great next year and the year after that. So they have some good principles in place, and they're just not that good at executing them at a high level every single night. But because they do have good principles, and because they can do so many things, they're continuing to win games at a pretty good rate anyway. But we're seeing like that Houston game, good example of playoff caliber play from an opponent, and from an opponent that's already playing a playoff style. And, they couldn't beat that. And Victor in particular, like, couldn't beat it. And so that was a good example of like how much room this team has to grow, but they're doing everything the right way, and they're way ahead of schedule. They're ahead of their own schedule, right? Like, we remember we were there before the season started. Victor broke ground when he said they should be a 6 seed. And like, now it's like, well, if they're not a 2 seed, we're a little bit disappointed, right? So they're way ahead of schedule. They're doing great top to bottom in that organization, and I think they're going to be fine.
Then for on the subject of Victor, and I feel like you have been in some rooms with some elite athletes, personalities within this sport itself. What stands out being around a guy like Wemby so far?
The most interesting thing is the thing we were talking about with the Jackals, which is his curiosity and his introspection. Like, the guy doesn't answer questions easily. Like, he doesn't answer easy questions with easy answers. Like, he does what I'm doing, which is it's some sort of big, long-winded, circuitous thing every single time. He's writing a novel every time. And so he's just like, he's always curious. And I think that is part of what makes him such a fascinating player on the court. And also it gets in his way sometimes. It's like, and I have a similar issue where it's like, you see too much and you overanalyze things so much that it makes it hard to do things efficiently, and you have to act efficiently. That's kind of the name of the game, right? And so it's been so interesting seeing the way that his personality is set up for him to be really like endlessly curious about things. To his credit, I think, shows interest and respect to all sorts of different people. And I've seen him kind of like genuinely engage with curiosity to me and to other people who aren't like players and coaches in a way that NBA players typically don't do. And so that's something that you talk to people that have been around him has been like a big part of his evolution as a person most of his life. And it's just ironic that the guy that sparks more curiosity from others than like anyone else I've ever seen basically is mirroring that with the same level of curiosity instead of hiding from it. And I think that's one thing that's been really impressive with him is he's so comfortable in his own skin, even though people are gawking at him and they're kind of like, they're dehumanizing him in the way that they idealize him, ironically. And it's like dehumanizing in a positive direction, but it still has a dehumanizing effect a little bit. And that hasn't really taken away kind of like the natural soul to the way that he operates. And that's what's been most interesting about him.
I think it's also that he shares that with us, right? Like, you kind of touched on it a couple times there in such a media trained environment as the NBA, where we're used to these guys, and you're sort of seeing it with the duality of Keldon Johnson, right? On the court, in the locker room, he's the loudest person there. He walks into the post game presser, and he's like, "How y'all doing today? Y'all have a blessed day."
A completely different
Very,
person.
like very relaxed, right? And especially with the Spurs, right? You're not expecting to hear an answer as honest as, "Yeah, we want to be a top 6 seed," right? And there's just so many things where he says exactly what he's thinking in his second language. And like, I think that part of it also, there's an element of it where his English is great, but watching him sort of think through it, that added step, it almost forces some reflection. But I bet he thinks in French too, like he just seems like really, really super mature. And it's crazy to say that that's the most interesting thing about him, given all of the other interesting things about him. But I think you're right.
Tom, get to your spicy question for Jared, though.
Okay,
Let's
sure,
get
I
out of this
will.
mature, immature
You're
shit.
filibustering right now, Tom. Get to it.
Yeah, come on. Get to your spicy one.
Okay, well, it's spicy for our friend Matt Tynan, who's a great friend of the show, and you were on his corporate knowledge podcast early in the season, like very like early on. It was maybe November.
I think so, yeah.
And that jabroni said very definitively, the Spurs are not winning a title this year. And you bravely and correctly said, let's not rule it all the way out. I mean, this guy's kind of crazy and unprecedented in ways that make you say, fill you with wonder about the potential future, right? What is your, first your window on how not ruling out the title we are in this year 3 for him, and then give me your most outlandish, if everything goes even better than we could possibly imagine, I wouldn't be shocked if he did this.
We call this the hyperbolic chamber, Jared, just for naming's sake, and any future advertisers. So Jared, you're technically in the hyperbolic chamber at the moment.
I can already feel my inflammation reducing as we speak. This is perfect. I mean, they very clearly are championship contenders. Like, that's obvious. They have the third best record as of recording, I believe, in the league. They beat the Thunder 3 times. And I think that last Thunder game shows that if they played the Thunder, it would be a very competitive series. And I probably would favor the Thunder in that one. But it would probably be really competitive. They have a chance to beat them. We've seen this team win a bunch of games when Victor plays mediocrely, and we've seen them win a bunch of games where the team sucks and Wemby just goes off. And so if Victor and the team can play well at the same time, they are really up there for best team in the NBA. And the NBA does not have a juggernaut that scares the crap out of you right now. There's probably like 6 or 7 teams that I think are, pretty close to each other. And like, did Minnesota just fall back like the 7th in the standings? And like, come on, like we've watched Minnesota play the Spurs. Like they're very clearly championship contenders. So it's a wide open field. The Spurs could lose in the first round to Minnesota, and I wouldn't think that's that big of a failure. I would think that's pretty reasonable. Minnesota's been really good this year. They can make it to the conference finals and beat the Thunder and then lose to the Celtics when Jason Tatum comes back. Like, who knows what's going to happen? So end result probably doesn't really determine how I evaluate the season. I think I evaluate the season just more like, can I see like Victor and the team get aligned on offense against a really good defense for, doesn't have to be 48 minutes. Just give me like 38 minutes, really. And how does this team look now that Victor's playing 30 plus minutes a game? Like they've had to get through the season with him on a minutes limit almost the entire season, which is like kind of crazy when you think about it. The guy, at one point, the guy was qualified for 6th man of the year, wasn't he? Like this doesn't happen with superstars. And so the season, as much as it's gone right, it hasn't gone that right that consistently for this team, and they've still made the most out of it. So I clearly think they're contenders. Like, obviously they're contenders. If I had to bet on who's winning the championship, I wouldn't pick them right now just because of how much they have to work out and how much I've seen Victor really struggle playing in tight spaces against great defenses. Like, that's, I think, the biggest one. And I still don't get, like, even with all the people I've talked to, I still don't get why he abandoned the 3-point shot at the beginning of the year. And, like when we talk about, like, I've kind of alluded to, like, Victor's hubris a little bit, where one of the things we saw is he focused on the parts of his game that need the most work in preseason, and then like completely abandoned parts of his game that he had a good feel for. And like a big one was shooting, as even though he didn't shoot the ball efficiently last year, like he at least had a good feel for like, how can I get 3-point shots in rhythm, even though he took a lot of 3-point shots out of rhythm last year. But like the big thing was every player in the NBA, every team in the NBA is talking about how we want more 3-point volume. And like, we want guys to develop a 3-point shot. And Victor can do it. And he ran away from that for so long. And we're seeing that it's easier and therefore more sustainable to play when you start the game shooting threes. And you just take threes when they come to you, so that you don't have to go all out and expend so much energy and hit the deck, which he does a lot, every single play. And I think it was mostly a developmental decision that he just really wanted to work on that, and maybe the team really wanted him to work on that. And now we're seeing over the past few weeks, he is leaning into being a jump shooter more. And like, there's no, I mean, listen, as someone, when I was younger and would play basketball a lot more and don't tear my ACL every time I play, I also didn't shoot the ball because I thought it was cheap to shoot the ball. I thought you had to go earn your bucket. You had to drive every single time. I didn't really take jump shots. And actually, because of that, I wasn't a consistent jump shooter because I wasn't willing to shoot the ball because I thought it was like almost unethical, ironically. And I can kind of see Victor doing that as well. And like, I would tell Victor, you know what, man, just take the easy way out. Like, great players, they find ways to take the easy way out, and that allows them to have the ball in their hands 100 possessions a game. And like, that's what he's got to do. And like, SGA, he doesn't get 32 points a game by dunking on people. He gets 32 points a game by drawing fouls when they present themselves to him, drawing fouls when they didn't even happen, drawing fouls when he wants to draw fouls. And like, that's what all the great players have always done. Like, Shea's not the first free throw merchant. Every single year of the NBA, in probably all of its existence, one of the top 3 scorers in the league, his game was foul merchanting. Like, as much as Shea might be frustrating, like James Harden was way worse, and hell, Manu Ginobili was probably worse, and Chris Paul was probably worse. Like, this was part of it, and we're starting to see Victor's like starting to bait for fouls a little bit more. We're starting to see him almost, when he upfakes someone and they close out at them, instead of waiting for them to pass, we're seeing him like almost start to lean into it, recognize that he could get like 4 fouls a game by doing that. And he's starting to recognize that if I take some threes early on, I don't even need to hit them. If I draw some fouls early on, what that really does is it just adjusts the way the defense plays me, and then that opens other things up. And as a great player, you're trying to constantly shift the board, because if you just establish, like, I'm better at this one thing than they are, they're going to eventually do something to change it. So it's really a matter of, can you dictate how the game evolves and changes over the course of the night? And that's where Victor is starting to show some flashes. He needs to realize that, or not realize, because I'm sure he understands this, but he needs to really hone in on that's what you do as a star player, and that's how you make yourself truly effective. And once he does that, that's what gets the Spurs over the top.
It just seems like, you already brought up kind of like the development of Victor. And I kind of think when we zoom out from the season, despite how good the team is, we're seeing actually a lot of various development projects with the team overall, namely, in Stephon Castle, especially being the one who's being the offensive initiator, even though there's De'Aaron Fox. I feel like this last week, up until that Jazz game in the fourth quarter, when the Spurs started doing Fox and Wemby pick and rolls, and everybody's like, why haven't they been doing that all season? It's like, because they probably already knew that was there. So I guess, could you speak a little bit to what you're seeing and what you're thinking of Stephon Castle's development so far this season?
I think the best sign of Castle's development is before the season started, people would always mention to me, Castle's not really a point guard. And I don't think I've heard anyone say that in like 2 months now, because at a certain point, when you watch a guy walk into the paint and then throw a skip pass over the top of the defense to a wide open shooter, you probably have to call him a point guard. And like, hey, I was one of those people. I didn't think he was I don't even know what a point guard really is at this point, but I guess you can see, like, I watched De'Aaron Fox play. I'm like, yeah, that's a point guard. Like, that guy's game is, I'm trying to walk into the paint over a screen and zip the ball out to somebody. And then he also just has those moments where he's like, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to go right into my turnaround jumper. That's like pretty much automatic from 15 or 12 or whatever it is. Castle doesn't have a lot of stuff that's like automatic. Like, you look at Fox's game and you look at most good veterans, like they have like 4 shots in their arsenal that you're like, oh, I see that one every night. I know that one. Fox has his shoulder into the chest of a defender at 10 feet, turn around, bucket. He hits that shot 4 or 5 times a night. Like, and that, a night where he's scoring 20, he's probably gotten a few of those. We know that's in his game. Castle has like some of that, but we don't see it as super consistently. He's just also like a great role player who is kind of playing a star role, but he's great at like the stuff that Keldon does, the crash the glass, the quick layups on a loose ball. He also just like hangs in the air for like 10 minutes, so he can do a lot of things up there that others can't do. So like, Steph is showing clear all-star potential. I definitely I underestimated Steph's game before I came here. He was probably the one person I underestimated, and it was just because I guess I didn't get to see him play next to Victor a lot, and so I just saw him play with a lot of kind of room to roam last year. And I should say, see him play with Victor after he kind of like took that big leap in the second half of the season. But we're seeing now, like, he fits around Victor really well, just because of how Victor, this is kind of a Victor problem, but Victor has not been able to play inside the restricted area on offense at all right now. And Castle's really good at that, like really good at it. For a second-year guy, is like shockingly good at it. So the fact that Castle's been able to get closer and closer to the hoop this year while playing with control, like, that's a really, really special skill. So, I think he's probably the best development story on the team this year, right? Like, I think he's
maybe him or Julian Champagnie. I might also relate to that. I saw a stat very briefly online that I think Julian was like the number 3 best defender on SGA so far this season. And, we talked about it, before a game, Jared, about how Julian, it's really funny, the timing. I remember that conversation. We were talking about like the Spurs, like the role of Julian Champagnie is supposed to be that of a sniper. And I'm pretty sure ever since we've had that conversation, that's exactly what Champagnie has like turned into, and putting the ball on the ground a little bit more. Putting it on the deck, I should say. He's not really turning it over. But I guess I'd put up between Steph and Julian as far as like roles, responsibilities, like within their development for them.
We were talking about Wemby taking more threes, and quite frankly, I agree with you on this. I'm a big fan of Wemby starting games, shooting threes, spaces out the floor. I think, as you mentioned, he's having issues getting within the paint. Teams are packing the paint. If you don't want to pack the paint, just take 28-footers all night and make them and cause issues and make them step out. And what we've seen over the last week, because you mentioned that we've seen Wemby kind of up the 3-point attempts per game, and in turn the Spurs have upped their 3-point attempts per game. the last week they're actually top 4 in the league in attempts per game for three. I'm just curious, do you think that is a something we'll see a lot more going on within the season, or is that just kind of a short-term, trying to get defenses out of what they're giving the Spurs right now?
I think a lot of that's just going to be that teams are pushing them towards that, and teams are loading up on Victor in the high post, and so that just means that they're going to have an open shooter somewhere because the defense is sunk in more than they're supposed to be, and Victor's pretty decent at finding those shooters. And I just checked. So before he got hurt, for like a few games, after New York, he shot, was it 4-3? Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is before his injury in November. He was shooting 4.8 attempts a game on 34.5%. And then just cutting to, I just lost it. Here we go. So just cutting to like January on, he's shooting 6.4 attempts on 42.2%. And so,
that's above league average and attempts per game. So you would prefer that?
Yeah, he doesn't have to take. I think last year he took more than Donovan Mitchell a night. I'm like, he doesn't have to take that much. But and also in that sample there, he has that 0 for 7 game against Houston.
Yep.
And then otherwise he's shooting pretty decently, and he had that great game against Utah where he shot lights out. But he's just he's got to have balance, and once he has balance, the rest of the team has balance. And so if he has more balance shooting threes, that's just going to open up the defense where someone's going to be able to cut, and then he can feed that person, and then that person can kick out to the weak corner and have a wide open Barnes or Champagny three or stuff like that. Just the more that Wembanyama gets 2 players to defend him per action, the more open threes that they're going to get. And so as much as I think it is transition, I think they're going to get more threes, which is a good thing, by just him figuring out how can I get into a space where they have to send 2 defenders at me, maybe even 3, because that's the way that he passes over the top. That just opens up wide open threes for them. And this team needs a lot of wide open threes because they have a lot of guys that don't shoot the ball that well. So, and Steph Castle, Dylan Harper, those are 2 guys that I feel like I'm seeing them taking a lot more threes lately, and they're missing them. Like we saw at the end of that Houston game, Castle missed a wide open shot, but those guys have to get better. And this team has to take more threes so that those guys can develop, and they're not going to develop without getting a lot of threes. So, the math, we don't need to go over the 3-point math. That's long established. Obviously, it's gone too far where some teams, they think we have to get up threes as soon as they happen. And that's not what you're supposed to do either. You're supposed to just work the possession to get quality looks. But if I can get a 3 over a mid-range shot, I'm usually going to take it. And this team, it's I'd rather see them take 43s a night and shoot 30% on them than not take them at all, because you want to see them develop. That's what they should be doing. And I think we're starting to see them getting back to that kind of rhythm where they're developing better.
Yeah, and I just kind of elaborate further on that because especially in that Celtics game, I think it's become more apparent, and it was further apparent, especially in that Rockets game, about the way they were packing the paint. So it's not I feel like these 3 attempts are going up, but I don't feel like the issue is they're forcing up threes. I feel like it's in the flow of the offense. There's not someone within anywhere from 6 to 10 feet of you, Stephon Castle. What are you supposed to do? Shoot a 3 right now, So it's part of the flow of it at the moment, and the way that they are guarding Wemby. So just what is the corporate term? Piggybacking on that point, Jared, for that sort of thing.
Well, let me make a really quick point, because I'm sure fans probably get frustrated when they see Castle miss a 3, right? I get it. There's probably a lot of fans that scream that's not your shot. Don't take that shot. One, most teams, their coaching philosophy has been, we tell all of our guys take every shot, and we really encourage them. I don't think they're telling Biz to take a wide open 3,
I would love to see it though.
They're not telling Luke Cornett that, even though he has historically taken shots. I was watching that Rockets game with friends, and they were like, Luke Cornett's open at the 3. Why doesn't he shoot it? I was like, because he does DHOs out there. He is not allowed to shoot a 3.
Yeah. I mean, he could try DHOing it to the hoop and see what happens. But Steph has to take that shot. And the reason why is Steph, as a dynamic player, he needs to have variability to his game so that the defense doesn't know what he's going to do every time. And he's really impressive because even operating basically around the paint, he's been able to create enough variety that he's able to score. And he needs to take that shot because even when he's not making the shot, it's going to get the defender to stop doing something. They're either going to actually guard him out there, or they're going to look at him and they're going to do that little wave off thing while he takes a shot. But at least when they're doing the wave off thing, they're still not really defending. They're just kind of like waving at him and not doing anything. And most guys, when they do that, they don't really pay attention to their box out. And so their box out is not effective. And so it's like you have to try to stretch the floor because it at least opens up some sort of space or at least takes one defender out of doing something active and useful. And so, you know, if Steph is shooting 0 for 7 every single night, then like, okay, yeah, you know what, maybe he needs to develop in practice instead of in the games. Like, that's really detrimental. But he's not quite that bad. And it gives him a chance to just like try to find a rhythm and try to like create variability. And I think you see it on the nights where guys like him and Harper start hitting some of those shots. It really breaks the game open because the defense like is like, I guess we can't take guarding him off on the perimeter anymore. And that really opens things up for Victor and like for HB even. Like when HB has his drive game going, that's really crucial too. And so, you know, this is a team that they don't have a ton of shooting on a lot of their lineups. And so it really clogs up the lanes. And so, you know, one of the important ways to fix that is just to like force those shots and see if you can get some of those shots going. And taking high volume threes has been proven to be useful because even on a bad shooting night, you still have a little bit better of a percentage chance of working your way back in there just because of those shots. Because frankly, if Steph is refusing to take threes, he's eventually going to be taking 20-footers instead. Because eventually he's going to decide I have to shoot the ball at some point. He's not going to Ben Simmons it. So he's going to take that shot. And so
I was about to interject. Like, basically, we're saying don't be Ben Simmons here.
That'd be the advice to most NBA players. Be fourth season Ben Simmons. Don't be seventh season Ben Simmons.
Yeah. I mean, also, you know, Stephon Castle actually shoots with his proper shooting hand, you know, so
sure.
He's got that going for him.
He has some touch, you know, it's not like, it's funny. We're talking about all this, like Steph, in case Steph's listening, for the record, like he's a very confident player and is comfortable knowing when to shoot the ball. He just needs to develop a better feel for his three, which like will probably come to a certain degree.
Watching his form, it looks like he's supposed to be shooting that. It looks correct. You know, there's not too much on a technical level where you watch him and you're like, oh, that's an ugly looking jump shot. It's a pretty looking jump shot. It hasn't fallen a lot for him, but you know, you're absolutely right that he's got to just keep shooting it, because if you stop shooting it, what's that one? I'd rather go, you know, 2 of 19 than 2 of 11, because if I'm 2 of 11, I stop shooting. You know,
number 1 on the team in 3-point shooting. Do you guys know who number 2 is on the team right now? I'd like shocked to see those. Yeah, percentage.
Keldon was number 1.
Are we doing the Jordan McLaughlin thing that we do every game?
No, this is someone. It's not even Jordan. It's someone who actually is taking shots.
So
we're not counting David Jones Garcia, who's at 60%.
I'm just going to answer just.
It's Wemby. 38.
Yeah, that checks out.
Now. And it's like, that's the power of you actually start shooting. Maybe you find some rhythm, and suddenly the bad shooter who doesn't shoot the ball is actually the second best shooter on the team.
Yeah. So question for y'all, for everyone here.
Everyone.
I've been doing some like research into 5-man lineups, and, you know, we're reaching this, you know, we're a little past the halfway point. There's going to be the All-Star break, and then I really feel like the tactical decisions of the Spurs are going to start coalescing more as they prepare for the playoffs. And so I'm curious for y'all, is there any like underutilized 5-man lineups that you would like to see more the rest of the season?
And
I can also kick off first.
No, I have one on the top of my head that we're on the subject of spacing and the floor needing to be spaced out. And I think when the playoffs come along, I think there are opportunities for the Spurs to run a true sort of their own variety of like a 5-out, where it's going to be De'Aaron Fox, Devin Vassell, Julian Champagnie, Harrison Barnes, and Wemby out there together. And I think you get opportunities to really space the floor. We haven't really seen an opportunity for that this season due to Devin being a little injured, Wemby being a little injured, De'Aaron being a little injured, and it kind of just has caused these guys to have to find their own roles. But I'm curious to see when they do have to fine tune this offense and really keep people out of the paint to allow these players to get into the paint and allow space to happen for Wemby and Fox. I think that'll be a lineup that could be utilized very well.
Yeah, I personally want to see a little more French vanilla, and I was on Data Baller messing around with some of the 5-man lineups there, and one that really pointed out to me, and it's only been used for 5 minutes, and the net rating is 109.1. So obviously that's incredibly skewed, but it's plus 100, so it's going to catch my eye, and it's De'Aaron Fox, Cornet, Wemby, Castle, and Barnes. And for anybody that's out there in the world that's like trade Barnes, it's like Harrison Barnes is still in some pretty good positive lineups overall. I just think like with the type of bully ball that you're going to see between the Rockets, physicality of the Timberwolves and the Thunder, and the Spurs are going to play at least, I assume, one of those in the playoffs, that this French vanilla connection is really going to have to lock in. In the last few games, I feel like, especially close ones, when Mitch Johnson has basically been like, hey, go get the ball, he's put in these French vanilla lineups to close out games. So that's the one that's like really popped off for me. Jared or Tom, is there anyone that y'all are like really curious to see more of?
I'd like to see more of Victor out there with Harper. And like I feel like I haven't seen a lot of Harper and Victor playing together. And like they had this one lineup where it's like it was Harper and Fox, so you had two playmakers, and then shooters like Champagny and Keldon around it. And like that's a really, really, really good defensive lineup there. And then that's a team that can like play up tempo, because I think especially Champagny is good playing up tempo because he's one of those corner to corner sprinters. And so because you have Harper and Fox, you have two guys that are just going to race down the floor. And I'd like to see some more of that lineup and see if like they can play at like a really, really high pace, but then still have good defensive pressure. And, you know, because like that, like Champagny has been one of their better wing defenders this year. Keldon is obviously a beast, even if his first step can be kind of slow sometimes. But like that lineup gives you a blend of some really good rebounding, good enough shooting in the corners. Like those are probably their two best shooters from the corners when Barnes isn't ice cold. And then two guys that'll really, you know, make good decisions in transition. Because like I feel like Harper in transition's a little bit more effective than Castle's a playmaker. Like Castle's been good in half court, but Harper, there's just something about the way that he kind of like the way he like strides through the paint that just I feel like makes him like a little bit more interesting as a fast break playmaker right now than obviously like Fox is the guy that's really composed. So I would like to see a little bit more of that lineup. And it looks like they've played 18 minutes so far. So like they've gotten a little bit of run, but not a ton. That's one that you could see like really taking off.
I see this one here on Data Baller right now. Harper, Wemby, Champagny, Vassell, and Johnson, 9 minutes at a 92.6 rating. I mean, that's kind of another kind of a pace team right there. I mean, it's like
I have one.
Devin Vassell coming back, by the way. You were at shoot around, Jared,
Tomorrow.
for that one.
I want to see a lot more of staggering, like, you know, when Fox goes off the court, to me, that has to be Steph, Castle, and probably Wemby on the court. Like, there probably has to be one of Fox or Wemby on the court at all times. And if Fox is off the court, I want to see Castle in there. I also would love to see, and this is something that Aaron has kind of talked a little bit about, some chaos ball, some monkey wrench defense, a lineup that's bookended by Steph, Castle, and Victor Wembanyama, and then you throw in, you know, three fast, strong wings, you know, guys who can foul. Give me Jeremy Sohan and Julian Champagny and Carter Bryant. You know, that's everybody's flying around defensively. It's going to be a rock fight type of lineup. And we've seen the Spurs get into some physical games here. And you can only really match physicality with physicality. So I would be excited to see some more lineups in that image where it's a lot of like, we're just going to be up on you and flying around defensively.
Yeah.
Also, wait, I got one more. I got one more to throw out there. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't think we
Yeah,
might
do
not
it.
ever see it again because of the trade deadline, but I want to see more Sohan at the 5 lineups. Those were actually really interesting. And I'm kind of surprised we haven't really seen it.
Well, Jared, last year, I can tell you that we saw plenty of it when Wemby went out, and it was like Jeremy at the 5, Bismack Biyombo at the 5, and the Spurs for, I don't know, 25 plus games had no one over 6'8" that was on the court. It was fascinating to watch, and I think it was helpful for Stephon Castle's development. But yeah, Jeremy can do that 5, and I do think that that's something where he's kind of been underutilized with more of those like up-tempo lineups that can get out there on the floor.
For joining us for the show, it's been a
pleasure.
pleasure.
You got some, Tom?
You're a true ball knower and a good guy. Tell the people where they can find your musings on Spurs basketball.
Basketball sicko, as we call you.
Yeah, go to The Athletic and follow me on
thank you so much, Jared.
Twitter,
really appreciate
Instagram, and now I do TikTok too, Jared Weiss NBA.
Once again, shout out Jared Weiss for being a part of this. Been a friend of the show since the season, and you'll definitely know Jared out there because he's a drip god. The dude has some great style, great kicks, and is just like a really solid dude to talk with. So he's been a really pleasant presence and welcome as like a new part of the energy of the press conference room. So Jared, I know you're not here, but I hope that you get to listen to this part of it too. But really appreciate you and looking forward to seeing you out there in the streets more and more this season. Well, transitioning here now. Look, the Spurs got an interesting week. I think we're actually past the hard part of January, fellas, just judging by the amount of days off between games this week. And look, we're sadly not going to make it on Sunday because roads are going to be icy as hell between Austin and San Antonio. As far as we know, this game is still happening. The Spurs are going to take on our very pesky Pelicans. They have a lot of trade rumors going on, but let me tell you something that's like really strange about this team. How is the last team in the West have so many untouchable guys? They are not one piece away from being competent. They're not. It's weird that they get to have all these little NBA Central things out there. It's like, by the way, everyone, you can't touch Herb Jones. Trey Murphy is untradeable. And so is Zion Williamson. Let me tell you something real quick, Pelicans. Here's the first thing you do. First off, get an actual NBA staff on your team. Bensons who run that team, fire and just keep that the training staff for the football team. You need to have basketball trainers on this team. Maybe that's something that's not going to make the NBA Central tweets, but I do think that this is like the first step for them to become a competent NBA franchise. Second thing, those guys are able to be traded. So, Tom, you have a third thing. Go on.
Yeah, I'm a little. First of all, I'm a little worried that the Untouchables might touch Twine in this game, as they've been known to do. Remember when Zion just went absolutely unconscious from 3 in San Antonio? Incredible scenes. Out of the 2, or maybe 3, Untouchables on the worst team in the West, which of those guys would you want most? Do you want the Zion Wemby pairing? Or it's probably between Herb and Trey, but like,
I would love the Zion Wemby pairing. That would be fun. They'd be throwing oops to each other all day. It'd be so much fun.
I mean, he would have an actual training staff, once again, that would like take care of him.
Organization.
They'd probably hold him out.
Yeah.
They probably hold him out of more games until he's like, all right, like I think some of the, accountability from the Spurs would be great for him. But look, if I'm really thinking about it, there's an idea. I think the initial instinct is like, oh, Trey Murphy, like this would be great. And I like Trey Murphy. I do think he's like an excellent player, but I think I'd rather go Herb Jones. And the reason for that is, there is one basketball, and I think the amount of points that like Trey Murphy gets is because he plays for the Pelicans. That number would go down, a little bit more playing with the Spurs sharing between Wemby, Fox, Castle, Vassell coming back, Harper. There's just a lot of that where I wonder if more so looking into Trey Murphy, he is good, but is it because he's good stats on a bad team? It seems like Herb Jones probably fits better as like what we would try to do like defensively.
Like Michael Porter Jr. on the Nets compared to Michael Porter Jr. on the Nuggets.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a great comparison. Like, yeah, this dude can get buckets, but like, what else is there to that,
No, they always give us fits, and I think this season they've given us a few fits. They've made both games pretty close down the stretch for one reason or another. I think this is the beginning of a week of like take care of business. The Spurs could rattle off 5 of 6, and in the West, before the schedule gets kind of clunky and gets kind of weird in February, they have OKC, they play the Rockets, they have a pretty good schedule here coming up. So I feel like these games coming up this week, and especially with this one, Utah past game, there's games, Utah twice past week, with the Houston game sandwich in between. If you could win 3 games this week, you win 5 out of 6 and really set yourself up. As I said, one bad week in the West can screw you. We've just talked about the Timberwolves they were now the 7th seed. And with the Suns, they're losing players. They lost Devin Booker last night as well. So, I mean, we're just kind of like, where are we? You got to take care of these wins. And this is one of those take care of business games.
Yeah. What do you got, Tom? Any more Pelican slander? You're muted again.
I got no slander. I got a compliment. I like me some Derek Queen, man. It's like Timmy told the Pelicans broadcast over there. He's a fun player to watch, man. And he also, I mean, Jared was earlier talking about like, man, I don't know if Wemby like has the built up cash to say some of that stuff. Derek Queen has way less, but also a ton of spunk. He's a spunky kid, and I enjoy watching him play and talk his mess. So, is he on the injury report for this game?
No.
Okay, yeah, no, and he had a great game against these Spurs not too long ago. So, fun player to watch.
Yeah, he previously put up a triple-double against these Spurs, remember? And Webby didn't play that game either, by the way, but he can put up buckets. This team, though, is not very good. In the last 10 games, they've won 2, and those 2 came to the Wizards and Nets. So,
Great competition.
I agree with Zach, though, that this should be like a true taking care of business type of game. Unless it's just really stressful getting to the stadium, which like it very much could be. Is there anything else within this game that you guys want to chat about? All right, good. Because you know what? You guys are going to have a lot more opinions about the Rockets rubber match, I feel like. Going back to Houston on Wednesday night, middle of the week. I still don't really understand the phrase get your lick back. Like, why would you lick someone for revenge? I feel like you should do something more harmful for revenge if that's what you're trying to do.
Not trying to really, incriminalize ourselves. We're not trying to put ourselves in. We're just gonna say get our lick back. So, and if it's ever taken poorly, and we do get our lick back, and we do actually have to, then we've saved ourselves in the courts.
What?
For,
don't
You
think
get-
we're
Tom-
incriminating
Tom-
ourselves.
Tom got it. Tom got where I was going.
I don't want there to be any licking involved, honestly. I just want some good, clean basketball, and
Not gonna happen playing Houston.
for the, yeah, no, they and we saw a lot. We've seen a lot of it with the physicality with Wemby. And these Rockets are not afraid to be physical with anybody, especially not Wemby. The Rockets played a lot of really interesting and challenging, for the Spurs in particular, defense in this last game, and it kind of is that same conversation that we had about Steph Castle and his you got to shoot it. Like, as a team, you got to shoot it, and you also kind of got to drive into it. But to make driving into it easier, you got to shoot it. But really, you should do none of those things. You should prioritize, if you're the Spurs, playing in transition, locking in on defense, so you are not going against a set Rockets defense that has had time to sort of gravitate to the paint and gum things up.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting where Eamon Thompson plays, because in the game this last week, they had him initially on De'Aaron Fox, and he's one of the few guys who can actually stay in front of Fox. But then as Champagnie got hot, they rotated over to him, and they're like, no, shut that guy down. Then, we know the story, Jelly Legs, like, happened there as well. So I'll be curious to see how that plays, and I hope that Wemby has better protection for whatever razor blades are in Alperen Şengün's elbows. But the other thing, this team is petty. The Spurs, that is. And the reason I say that is because I remember a couple quotes from Carter Bryant in his first post-game presser where he's like, no, we're aware that, like, this team beat us. We want to get them again. I guarantee you that this Spurs team, wants to get the Rockets again on this one. What you got, Zach?
There was a stint in the second quarter where they attacked Reed Shepherd on multiple occasions. I counted 10 points in a row were scored on actions directed right at Reed Shepherd. And they went away from it, which was kind of disappointing. And especially we saw what happened there in the fourth quarter. Couldn't hit a shot, couldn't hit a three. Went 0 for 14 from three, if I remember correctly, from in the fourth quarter. It's obviously recipe for disaster. We saw that happen in a previous game against the Timberwolves a few weeks back. Let the Timberwolves back into a game when the Spurs were winning all game. Couldn't hit a three to end the game. Got passed up. I just want to see more action. I want to see more downhill action. I think an adjustment to be made is there were some threes taken at way early in the shot clock. There were maybe 3 or 4 I can count on the top of my head that I remember was like, we didn't get any emotion. We didn't get any action. There was no attempt to even get downhill. It was just come around, get over a screen and shoot it. And I hope, with film and adjustments, there will be opportunities for Spurs to act on these or make up for these mistakes. I wouldn't call it a mistake. It's still like you got a good look at three, but you can get that look whenever.
If I can jump in on this one, Zach,
yeah.
I think it's a good rule of thumb that if you get a shot without making the defense work at all, it means that the defense is comfortable giving you that shot.
Right.
Right. And also they're giving you something that they're fine with, and you are not making them work to give you that shot at all.
No, and that's where I'm at with that. And I'm not mad about the threes. I think they were settling for threes. They were settling for certain threes in the game that you could probably find that exact same shot by moving the ball around 4 times, making the defense rotate, and maybe get an easier look at that said three. You're still going to take a three within that offense, but look, there needs to just, and that's the only criticism I had. I don't think they played poorly on Tuesday against the Rockets. I think there was a lull that happened there in the end of the second quarter where they let the Rockets cut it to 10, and you're like, no, this should be a 20-point game. And it felt like the Rockets, they could never get the Rockets away. There were opportunities to keep it at a 15-point lead, to keep it at a 17-point lead. And it dwindled down to single digits to 10 points at the end of the second and the third quarter where there are opportunities to blow the game open. And I think the Spurs can't let that up. And I think, like any good team, ending of quarters are massive, especially those 2 quarters in between, those middle quarters. Those are massive to give yourself a little extra buffer. And I don't think the Spurs capitalize. And I think they will on the rematch.
Gonna have plenty of rest, and then you know what? And then last game of the week, where the Spurs are gonna have plenty of rest again, before they actually have a back-to-back to end the month. But they're gonna be playing against the team in the Charlotte Hornets that is I'd say the most interesting team in the league right now, which I really didn't expect to say. And part of that is because right now, according to Kirk Goldsberry and his efficiency um, graphs, right now the Charlotte Hornets are number 1 in net rating in the league over the last 10 games, number 2 in offense, number 6 in defense. I think sometimes as Spurs fans, we probably see the Charlotte Hornets and we're like, oh yeah, they suck. We should kick their ass. Well, they've beaten us also the last 3 times we've played them. And last year, remember, there was a Miles Bridges corner 3 that put them over the top for us. So not an easy one here either with them. What do you guys got on this game?
Have they had like that really crazy net rating? They've had wins over the Magic, Nuggets, Lakers, and Thunder. It sounds like the Spurs December. They've beaten good teams. And so it's one of those games that like it feels like a trap. It feels like maybe they're so good as not even a trap game, it's just a game. Or so hot right now that it's just, and I think because it feels so much like a quote unquote trap, that it's just not a very good trap. And so I don't know what that means for the mentality of it, and how up they're going to get for it. But it's going to be a test one way or the other, I think.
LaMelo Ball I think he always plays well against the Spurs for some odd reason. This team is very interesting. Connor Knibble can shoot the piss out of the ball. They have really good players, and I think they're a few years behind where the Spurs are in their rebuild. We can see, but recently, as you say, the numbers don't lie, and this team has beaten good teams. We never play well in Charlotte anyways. It doesn't matter if it's Charlotte Bobcats, Charlotte Hornets, Charlotte, whoever. We play awful against them in that city. So the Spurs, I remember when the Spurs were the best team in the league, and the Charlotte Bobcats had Steven Jackson. We had issues beating them. So it's always something to do with these certain cities, Indiana, Charlotte. It's a lot of eastern cities too. So they just buckle up. It's a Sunday afternoon tip. It's one of those weird ones. Just be prepared.
Yeah, and Connor Knipple right now is leading in the rookie leaderboard. So I do think Dylan Harper has gotten a bit over his rookie slump, rookie hump, whatever you want to call it. This is one of those where I think he just really wants to show up and show out against him. But to your point, Zach, Con Knipple too, he's shooting very closely to Steph Curry's 3-point percentage his rookie year, shooting 43.5% from 3. Steph was 43.7%. I think it's going to be a better game than the brand would have you realize. So with that being said, y'all, once again, thanks to Jared Weiss for being a part of this. 2 questions for y'all before we roll out. First one, what's the record after this week? What do you think? What do you got for this next week?
3-0. They had 3-0. I think is mandatory. This is one of those mandatory 3-0 weeks due to the fact with the West being so close and the fact that you can get 5 of 6 within this West, you had to win these games.
I think that because Zach feels that way, it's going to be a 2-1 week. Just given that that's how he feels about these games, it makes me feel more assured that they will drop either the Hornets or the Pelicans one. I think that they beat the Rockets. I think they'll drop a game that will.
But they do that.
Zach to know.
Yeah, well, they do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 2-1 with them as well. I cannot stand on business on 3-0 right now with this team. Quite like you, Zach. 2-1 at least emotionally.
It's you need to win these.
You called it mandatory. That's standing on business.
I'm not saying
need to win.
I'm saying they need to win. You must win basketball in January.
Zach, I don't know what getting your lick back means, and I don't know how saying they need to win isn't standing on business, but that's okay.
No, I think we will win. Instead of we need to win is different.
Okay. That's fair. Well, one other question I have for y'all with where we're at right now. 40 wins first or 20 losses first? What do you think?
I say 40 wins. I say 40 wins because I think I think that the Spurs would need a pretty significant reduction to their win percentage if they got to 21st. They're currently 31-14. They're I'm expecting one, Devin Vassell's coming back. Two, I'm expecting Steph Castle to get over this thumb and the illness that has been bogging him down just a little bit in the last month. And I'm expecting just more togetherness as this team continues to learn and grow together. So it would take regression to hit the loss mark first, and I'm expecting progress for this team. Give me 40-17.
Okay. What about you, Zach?
Well, I wouldn't be the 3-0 guy if I didn't think they were going to keep winning. So I think the 40 wins comes first, obviously. I would love to see that. The schedule coming up, though, is going to be pretty difficult. And we had the rodeo road trip this next month. So got to take that into account. But once again, I think anything we've seen from this team so far has given us a good indicator that they can go win games. 40 wins. Book it.
40 before the 20, and it gets done in Austin. I'll call my shot there.
That would be
The
awesome.
40th
Which
win
Austin
is in
team
Austin.
really call your shot?
At least the Kings. At least the Kings. So
Cheating.
that's what I'll say. Well, all right, y'all. Thanks again, Jared, for being a part of this. Y'all go follow him on any of the social channels out there that he dropped earlier. Look, it's cold. I hope everybody stays warm. I hope everybody's power stays on. And I hope everybody just stays safe during this time. Jack and Tom, what do y'all got to say before we dip today?
Everything you said stands. And if you don't have Arc Raiders, go buy it so you can play with Tom and I.
Yeah, stay safe outside of Speranza. That's why I did this show with this headset. It's actually fused to my ears at this juncture. So yeah, stay safe on the roads. Stay safe stay safe topside if you have to venture out. And we'll see you next time. Go Spurs, go.
Peace, y'all.